After 4 years of trying to alleviate lower back spinal pain, I've managed to find what is the root solution to the root problem. I believe that anyway. After 4 years of trying to strengthen the glutes, work on the hips, lengthen the hip flexors, I still had lower back pain, and it's because I didn't address the actual ability of my spine. All I ever did was try and protect my spine, lift with my legs. I ensured at all times my spine and my back were flat and straight during any exercise movement, which is correct, you're supposed to do that. But outside of these exercises, I never addressed the actual ability of my spine being able to bend and mobilise. Doing this helps tolerate the spine being able to bend, and this ability transfers into everyday life. My workout exercises, the form and technique were fine, and yet I was still struggling with basic tasks like vacuuming the car and washing the car on the lower levels. So then I'd go and put this ibuprofen rub on my back and then lie down straight, which meant that I wasn't moving the back and I wasn't addressing the root problem with these creams. So I was just lost really with this back pain. And what I've done, as you can see in this movement, it's a very intentional movement, purposely and intentionally moving just at the spine to mobilise the spine and actually test the ability of what our spines can do, because our spines are meant to bend. Spinal injuries tend to stem from trauma, accidents and unintentional lifting, especially when we're in a position that we've not trained our body to be in. That's when we're susceptible to injury. So spinal ability is very important in combating that. You'll learn in this video series a couple of exercises to help with longevity of our body, so let's get started. For beginners, I recommend starting without the slant board on flat ground, just so that you can get your better centre of gravity and learn this movement. The slant board will elevate your toes, which will bring more of a stretch into your calf and hamstring when you're ready to go onto that stage. Also, no matter what level you're at, a light resistance, hanging down and starting the movement from there, I recommend, as that will help guide you into this actual movement and stretch. If you've nothing at hand, just work with your own body. You just wouldn't bring your weight up, you don't need to. You'd actually want to start by tucking your chin and then working down each vertebrae, letting your hands drop down with your weight. Here I'm just moving from side to side to make sure that I'm not moving at one side more than the other. So I'm just testing the waters with it. And then slowly working down each vertebrae until you get into a bottom stretch position. Then you're just going to work through your breaths, which is going to help tell your central nervous system that this movement is okay, it's controlled, intentional and safe. Upon completing your first bend, when you're down at the bottom, you'll feel your limiting position where you're really stretching out. You'll then do breath work to breathe in and then gently breathing out, exhaling as you're trying to just reiterate this full spinal bend. For every breath, you'll be able to withstand that position and then be able to work in developing more bending. Upon finishing your breath cycles, I usually do 5 or 6 inhales and exhales. You'll then want to come out of the position by starting to breathe in and reverse the vertebrae pattern in which you came down in. So start with the tailbone, up towards the lumbar, to the thoracic, and then just relieve by finishing with bringing the head back. I'll finally run you through a few things to make sure you're getting right before having a go at this. Firstly, it's to not start your movement with your hips like a standard hinge. You want to be working, like I say, starting with the top of the vertebrae, which is your chin, and then working down the vertebrae that way. Hopefully you can see them differences there. Manipulate your environment if you can't quite reach the ground, and then use levels, anything you've got at your disposal to help yourself get down over time. But I do recommend holding light resistance in your hands to help the movement. And lastly, just make sure your centre of gravity is well balanced. It'll stop you falling over. One of many unconventional movements that can help restore our deviations and get our healthy mobile bodies back.